Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 503, Dark Knight's Metal number 1. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, the Duke of You-Know, and, of course, the elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we are talking about Dark Knight's Metal number 1. And I'm really excited to talk about this issue, so without further ado, let's start jumping into that. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. We are sponsored this episode, of course, by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on at DCBService.com?
Of course, the bundles. I've talked about them multiple times. 50% off. Check them out. They're wonderful. Break them down. You'll see it. Thank you. But also, you know what? DCBS gives you specials on some great collected editions. Fables Deluxe hardcovers. 50% off, only $19.99. Yes, $19.99 for a hardcover collectible on Fables. Thank you, thank you, thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they've always got their deals of the week. They've got the new Teen Titans trade paperback, Volume 7. 50% off, only $9.99. Wonder Woman trade paperback, Volume 3, The Truth from Rebirth. 50% off, only $8.49. In-stock trade steak. They're serving steak now. InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source. Whether you like hardcovers, trade paperbacks, absolutes, omnibuses, they've always got a great collection of them that you can go ahead and search through and add. And always running deals. That 50% off, 45% off, 40% off, depending on what the book are. And they sometimes offer amazing specials on books that they're closing out. So anywhere 50 to 90% off of mostly out-of-print titles they've got going right now for some DC ones. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk Dark Knight's Metal, number 1. Jim, a couple quick things before we kick into the episode. This is going to be, we're going to actually have 2 more episodes, this episode and one more at the end of August. I want to get at least 3 in this month. August, for anyone who's been a long-time listener, knows that this is the start of the school year for me. You and I, when we were recording last time, had considered recording a second episode, but we were tapped out. It wouldn't have been a good show. But one of the things we're going to have to do in August next year is make a plan to record a couple episodes back-to-back so that we don't have this kind of lag in between recordings. But I want to shout out listener Scott Smith, who he calls in on our voicemail line periodically. And I noticed that we had a voicemail from him, but for some reason Skype's not letting me retrieve it. And this rarely happens, but it just happens to be a quirky thing. So Scott, please call in again, because I want to get your voicemail on the episode. We've got 3 voicemails that are going to be on this show, and Scott's was going to be one of them, but it's not accessible to me. So, and I just know it's his from the phone number from last time. So, Scott, please call in again. I want whatever you're going to talk about a part of our episode. So that's why it wasn't recorded on this one. But I also want to talk about, before we jump into Dark Knight's Metal, I want to talk about the new Telltale game. So, for anyone who is not a gamer, doesn't know, Telltale is a company that releases video games. To call them point-and-click adventure games kind of oversimplifies, but that's probably their closest connection to the old PC point-and-click adventure games of yore. What they do, though, is they put so many interactive elements now that are more modern that it's unfair to call them that. But they're very story-based. It's interactive storytelling. Great for DC Comics characters. They've done The Wolf Within, which is based on Fables. They've done Batman now. And this is the second Batman season. The nice part about this game, this one's called The Enemy Within. You definitely want to play the first game before playing this one. You can get away with it without doing it. I mean, they have this story generator in the beginning where you can kind of fill in the blanks of your choices from the last game, or just plain out start from scratch. But if you played before, they'll actually carry over your choices from the last game. Because what ends up happening is during the game, you will make certain choices that affect the outcome of the story. So the way that the first game ends for you carries over into this game. If you didn't play the first game and you hadn't heard about this before, the best way to describe it is it's an Elseworlds Batman tale. Kind of like Batman Earth 1, where we know that it's echoes very much the Batman storytelling, but the idea is it's a reimagining of Batman. This gets it pretty right, but it plays around with some of Batman history. It plays around with the history of his parents. The last game was Two-Face centric, and more. I'm oversimplifying. Penguin was in the last game. Two-Face was in it. Vicky Vale was in it. A lot of characters in the last one. I'm gonna not spoil that story, but in the end, you were left in a certain outcome, and it teased that this game was going to be about the Joker. So this one is about the Joker. Episode 1 was released, and it's a 5-episode arc. So periodically they release a brand new episode. They actually already announced the episode 2 release date and characters that are going to be in episode 2. But episode 1 kicks off at the beginning. It's very James Bond. The opening sequence is all about Batman versus the Riddler. And it introduces Amanda Waller to this universe. Commissioner Gordon's already been there. Batman's established in this world now. Alfred's involved in this. You get to go into the Batcave. The cool part is in the beginning, you get to design your Bat Tech. And when I mean design, you get to decide on the color scheme that your Bat Tech will show whenever it is activated. And then it's great because you go from a mix of being Bruce Wayne to Batman to then being in the Batcave with Alfred and actually using the Bat computer to research and things like that. So you really feel like you're taking on the role of Batman in all aspects of his life. You make conversation choices and action choices that impact the story. It impacts how people react to you. So the type of let's use Amanda Waller just for an example. The type of relationship you build with Amanda Waller is directly affected by your conversation choices with her. So it's great because it really feels like you're driving the tone of this story and the relationships in this story, but also the type of Batman that you're going to be. And it's cool. It's a very different kind of take on it. I do want to caution this is Elseworlds, so they take some liberties, and they do it in such a way that is great to this storytelling universe. Some of the choices are pretty bold and shocking, some of the things that they do, but it's because of the fact that this is really meant to be its own thing. I love these games. I think they're really well written, and it's great to feel this kind of interactive. It's almost like you're driving your own Batman story. Choose Your Own Adventure as a kid was a biggie for me. This is like a modern version of that type of thing, but you actually feel like you're living it. And it's just this season is one that I was anticipating greatly, and so far it's not letting me down. And I hope it's successful, and I'd be curious to see any of you out there that are playing it. Feel free to call in with your thoughts on these games. Are you enjoying them? Do you agree with my take on it being an Elseworlds take? Do you like that? Do you not like that? You don't have to agree with me. I actually would be interested in people's takes. Now, Jim, you've got a game system now. This is available on the computers. It's available on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox. I've heard rumors that this game series is coming to Switch. So it's very easy to get a hold of the Telltale game series. Now, you're new to console gaming. I think you picked up the first game series. Am I right? Have you done any of this yet?
Well, I've picked up the first game series, and I have the Walking Dead stuff. And I started working the Walking Dead stuff, but my nephew and my nieces were there, and I did not realize that they were using profanity in the game.
Oh, yeah.
So as soon as I started hearing them drop F-bombs, like, well, that's enough playing that game. And I haven't had a chance to jump back on it. I've been doing more Doom when I do play, and I'm going to get back to Walking Dead. I'm going to start with the Batman because as you were describing it, I was like, okay, this is something I'm going to enjoy. And initially, I thought it was kind of cool until I had to stop playing. But now I have no little children around me, so I'll be free and clear to actually get into it.
The Walking Dead's a great series. The Walking Dead is the first one of, I guess, that really got them notoriety. but they've done a lot of game series. They picked up the Sam and Max license, which used to be an old PC game license. They picked up Monkey Island. They did a great Back to the Future game series. I really enjoyed it. At least I'm kind of a geek when it comes to Back to the Future. You give me anything on Back to the Future, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
So that stuff's all good to me. I'm going to be curious to see how you like Walking Dead. Batman is a later version of the game engine, so it's a little bit more interactive. I'm not putting down Walking Dead when I say that the Walking Dead story is one of my favorite. Because it's another one of those that continues on, because there's been 3 in that series. So is it the game? Did you start the game with Lee?
Yeah, I got the very first.
Okay, so that's a. I'm not going to spoil anything for you on that. That's a great game. I'm actually playing through it now. I haven't played the 3rd game in that series yet because I didn't play them originally on the PlayStation 4. So I want all my choices to carry over. So I'm going through to play it again, trying to remember the choices that I made. So and reliving it because I really enjoyed the story to get up to 3. The problem is, in the wake of my intention to get to the 3rd game, all of a sudden Batman came out. And I'm like, well, I want to play season 2 of Batman. So yeah, it's Walking Dead's on my back burner. I'm all about Batman right now. But they're great games. They're really different than, the nice part is you mentioned Doom. Doom's a great game. It's a shooter. So when you're kind of like, all right, I'm shootered out, you can step away and play one of these, and it's a very different experience than playing Doom. So it's kind of nice that there's such a variety on there. But this is a game series that I recommend. I know that there's already been some reveals of a character who's making I'm not going to say gender, who's making their appearance in this episode 2 of The Enemy Within, and I'm super excited just because the writing of this has been really top notch. I'm excited for this. So when you eventually dive into the first season of Batman, let us know how are you liking it, because it's a different sort of game. You haven't played the Arkham series either, have you?
No, I haven't done any of that stuff.
Oh God, dude, I to live vicariously through you right now. Because that's a great game series. 3 Batman games that are must plays. And you're jumping in at the right time because they released a souped up version of the first 2 Arkham games that you can grab and play. It was I forget what they called it. I'll tell you when I'll send you a message when I remember. But it's a remastered version of the first 2 games, and then there's the last one that just came out that was on the PlayStation 4 when it came out. But those are some of my favorite Batman games of all time. So you got a lot of great gaming ahead of you.
Yes.
Which is
I just
kind
need to find the free time to do it.
Yeah, well, time is like the same thing with comics, right? When do we have time? And actually, we can jump on the DC MMO because it's free to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of those where you can. It's free to play, but then you pay like a premium for add-on packs and things like that. So, or you can pay a monthly fee and all that stuff's free. So there's 2 different ways to go about it. Or you can, because the free-to-play means you can jump in right now and you and I can play. You don't have to pay a dime. It's kind of a nice one. We'll have to do that sometime because you and I can run around the MMO together.
Okay.
And play that. That'll be a fun one. But what we're really going to talk about today, and I'm really excited to talk about this, is this Dark Knight's Metal event. Where, we're kind of debating about this in our last conversation. And this is a story where I really didn't know where this was going to go. Because it's introducing brand new concepts. And it's turning right away into this Justice League story, but I think it's going to jump us right back into a lot of our debates on Batman's actions. Because this issue is just chock full of this. And I was kind of hoping it would be this kind of event. Because there's a lot that's going on here and a lot to talk about with what our friend the Dark Knight is doing. Is he right? Is he wrong? Is this an event where he's going to be one step ahead of the game, or it's going to come back to bite him? And I think there's a lot to discuss here. But do you want to do the creative team? Do you want me to do the creative team? How do we want to do this one? Because I think we need to talk about this metal event.
Where is the creative team?
Well, I got it right in front of me, so we'll go that way.
Okay, you go.
So we're going to go with Scott Snyder on script, Greg Capello on pencils, Jonathan Glapian on inks, FCO Placencia on colors, Steve Wan's letters, Capello, Glapian, and Placencia on the cover, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair on the variant, Andy Kubert, Brad Anderson also on a variant, John Romita Jr., Danny Mickey, and Dean White on a variant cover as well. Eddie Berganza and Rebecca Taylor are the editors. Dave Wielgos is the assistant editor. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. Special thanks to Mark Doyle. So on this one, and apologies for any name butchery, because this is a creative team that's hitting this one right smack out of the park. Even the covers, because I'm looking at the digital version right now, and I'm really enjoying all these variant covers that are available from it. But this is a story that spans, starts off 50,000 years ago, and it's introducing this mythology of the wolf, the bird, all of these tribes, the tribes of the bear, and then introducing that the bat comes on the scene, and basically, there's a darkness that seems to encompass everything. This idea of stretching back into an era of DC that we haven't seen explored at least in a long time, and adding something new that predates much of what we know. I really like this. I like creating a mythology in this world. And especially with Batman, because Batman's kind of an unusual one to do this with because he's so grounded. I like when they take Batman stories and go, now we're going to tell you something you didn't know. And we're going to add a mythos to Batman that you didn't know about, that he didn't know about, that he's discovering. I'm going to be curious to see how Batman reacts to this. Because Scott Snyder in his run has explored, the ability to come back to life, and that there's elements that will allow you to do those type of things. This is a Batman that died and came back. Really now multiple times, because he did that in Grant Morrison's run too, kind of got thrown back through time. So I know elements of that are compressed in how they happen, but I'm reading that most of what we know about Batman has in fact happened to this man. But Scott Snyder just did this recently with the whole Bloom storyline, and we've seen Batman come back, and it jumps us from that history right into this battle of the Justice League, who are wearing suits of armor that inhibit their powers on Warworld with Mongol. I loved this battle sequence, mainly because of the Wonder Woman bits. I thought seeing Wonder Woman, she's got this warrior talent, and she really took over, and I loved that the team was deferring to her for her warrior skills. She was putting them in formations that it makes sense that Wonder Woman would be leading. I really liked the writing of those action sequences because it made sense to me. It was a gorgeous sequence, great attacks, but also the explanation of what was being done to each of these characters to keep them from having their normal power set.
Yeah, this was a cool opening, and it was one of those things where you're like, what? What's going on here? Because you have all the the pre-issues that you're like, okay, leading up to metal. Wait, just wait, huh? I loved how it kind of threw you on your, just kind of flipped the script on you, and you're like, okay, what's going on now? And it was a beautiful way to get you going into the thing, get you thinking Justice League. And I will agree with you, Wonder Woman definitely was not a reluctant leader in this combat situation, and was the right choice. It was a cool thing to use that, to use her, but in the end, it was the strategery of Batman that did save the day. So it was kind of a neat usage showing the full team's strengths.
I like that we see Superman kind of rushing in during the battle, too, to try and get the armor off. They're all recognizing that, like, if we can inadvertently trick our adversaries into ripping our armor off, we'll get our powers back. And the adversaries were not buying into any of it. You're right, Batman's strategery jumping in and getting pulled inside, I thought was really great. I liked how that all played out. And then we saw, did we just see Justice League Voltron? I mean, that was sweet.
I liked little comedic moments in this thing that didn't take away from the actual action. It didn't pull you from that. Whenever you get a writer who can do that and do it well, it's a definite sign of, it's something that I enjoy seeing, like, with Hal, especially the thing. He's like, see, this is why we vote on strategy, as he's getting pulled into his version, his robot. It was just a little funny moment, didn't take away anything. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's this opening sequence was a nice way to start off this whole thing, especially because you didn't see it coming. And I think that for me is always a cool, that a writer can do that, completely throw me and not see what was going to happen and have no issue with it because it was a good story being told.
I like that Hal's back with this team because with the nature of this being a big event like it is, it's kind of nice to see the heavy hitters across the universe being involved. So I liked seeing Hal back with the team, that dynamic, like the original Justice League that we saw that kicked off the New 52, back together again and being a part of the event. Because there's a familiarity with Hal and Bruce in the way that they interact that I miss seeing when you don't get to see it very often. I like that I always like the Justice League as a concept where in certain configurations you could have certain members, in other configurations you could have others. I like the idea that Hal might be off on a space mission and another Green Lantern would be on the team. That makes a lot of sense to me with the way the Green Lantern Corps works. So it was nice to see. I like seeing him on this team just because these are the characters that I grew up with. And Cyborg, here's the funny part. Cyborg to me is so a part of the team now in a way that I guess growing up, you expected characters like Red Tornado to always be there manning the console and everything like that, and doing the watchdog, watch monitoring and all that stuff. Seeing Cyborg in that role now feels right to me. I feel like at this point that he's seasoned. He feels like he should be part of the team. I look at this group and I'm like, everyone belongs there. Cyborg feels like he belongs there to me now, and I like that I feel that. Because he's a character who's very important to me. I always grew up with him being a Teen Titans guy. Now I feel like Cyborg's Justice League, and he really belongs there. And I like how the team defers to him, and he feels very modern. And it's interesting, I use the Red Tornado comparison because he's in this issue, and I always remembered him growing up as being the guy that was there monitoring the satellite, when it was the Justice League satellite and things like that. Seeing Cyborg take over that role now and be that person makes sense in a modern era. So I just really enjoyed the way that this has been playing out. The Challengers Island showing up on the scene and leading to, this big discovery that we saw in the cliffhanger of the last issue. We had the 2 Dark Days build-ups to this, and we saw that cliffhanger where the door was opened, and now we see all of a sudden Challengers Mountain plop in the middle, leading to this larger mystery of what's really happening here at the moment. And it does bring back one of my favorite characters in Kendra. I was so glad to see Kendra brought in. I hope that she's eventually revealed to be Hawkgirl, because I always loved her as a character and would love to see her being brought in. I hope this does lead to the return of Hawkman and leads to the return of her in her role as Hawkgirl. I would love to see that. I don't know if that's where they're going to go with this, but right now, seeing her makes me smile the same way that Sasha Bordeaux has made me smile in her recent appearances in Batwoman. So, seeing these characters being brought back in is, I don't know, just really exciting for me.
Yeah, it was, again, a really cool. We go from that Justice League action to a mountain in Gotham and the massive destruction, and immediately the team starts working together. And I was like, "This is neat. This is what you want the Justice League to do." They're hitting the ground, they're scanning, they're searching. Barry does his Barry thing, finds the door. They're going in, they're investigating. I liked seeing this unit together, and this whole time I'm going, "Okay, yeah." Batman's being a real team player here. And I was like, the previous issues I had where I was like, I don't know where Bat's going with this, and we had that massive debate before. I was kind of like pushing things aside. There was, of course, that one little quick comment when they were flying in where Soup's saying, hey, are you ready? He's like, I'm not ready yet. And there was that little bit there, but I was like, you know what? Maybe this is going to bring the full team together. And like you, I was excited when the Blackhawks showed up, but you know what? I'm thinking this issue really has justified my comments. And even just initially from this jump point here, right from when Mountain is, Bruce knows more than the others, and Bruce is not sharing with the others, especially when they're talking about just with, everything that the Mountain's going on with them when they go back to Blackhawk Mountain, when they're feeling that same energy. There's a lot that Bruce isn't letting them know about. And I think for me, that was kind of a cool moment where I was like, I can pat myself on the back, but also I'm going, man, dude, Bruce, come on. Start talking to your team. Start talking to your team.
But here's where there's a difference between the two of us. You're patting yourself on the back because you think you're right. Here's the catch. I trust Batman. So I'm convinced maybe he's right in not telling them yet. We don't know yet. We're not there yet. There's a cliffhanger in this issue, and we're going to have to talk when we get there, where depending on how that conversation goes and what's really going on here, I think issue 2 is going to be pivotal on whether or not you're right to pat yourself on the back. Because Batman may be right in not telling them yet. And that's going to be the end debate on this one. And maybe this is going to be one of those where we agree to disagree. But I'm still on the point of Batman knows more than them. And first of all, everything you're saying is, from a story point standpoint, accurate. He's not telling them. So in the end, he's either right to do that or wrong to do that. I trust that Batman, because he's been investigating this for how long, knows a little something more than everybody else does, and we haven't seen that play out yet. Or this could wind up being a huge mistake that blows up in Batman's face, in which case you are right.
Yeah.
I could see it going both ways. So I'm in that camp where I can see, like, maybe you are right, Jim. Maybe it will go the other way. I still trust Batman, and he's admitting the fact that he hasn't told them. Alfred, he has a debate with Alfred. So you're kind of playing. You're actually, honestly, you and Alfred right now would be, fist bumping and everything else right now. Alfred would agree with you. So it's an interesting story point right now. Is Batman right or not? I currently trust Batman, so we'll see what ends up happening.
And I will fully give you that. We really can't. I can't 100% say that I am right, but I'm starting to think, okay, I think I was on the right path there. But again, as you said, we got to see what Batman does and how he handles it. And he is Batman, so that's a plus for him. That he gets away with stuff that you and I would never be able to pull off just because he is Batman. But I really did like kind of this deception that he was doing throughout all of this, because when he went to Black Hawk Island, he had an objective in mind, and that was to get his hands on nth metal, pure nth metal. And I 100% believe that when the Blackhawks, he knew exactly who they were, what they had, where he was going. He had all the full intel on them already, just because he is Batman. But he went there with the mission to get the nth metal fragment. And I think that for me was kind of it was a really cool story point. But I'm like, dude, man, I disagree with his tactics. I disagree with what he's doing, but it's a wonderful, wonderful story point. So I'm not knocking how it's written. I'm knocking as friend of Batman. Me and Alfred are in the same boat where we're like, you need to bring the rest of the team in.
I guess might be where you and I differ from time to time in this one. I guess my thinking is he has a plan to bring the rest of the team in. The real debate is he right to wait and gather more information? Or should he have brought them in sooner? I'm not so sure yet. Here's the thing. Would Dream of the Endless we might as well jump to that. Would Dream of the Endless be appearing to him if the entire Justice League was there? Or is there a reason that I need to see what the cliffhanger in this is pivotal to me? Yeah. Why is Dream appearing to Batman? What is Batman's link to this? Is Batman doing the right thing or not? I think his meeting with Dream is going to shed a lot of light on this one. Maybe it needs to be a personal journey of Batman's up to a certain point in order to get the information that we need. I don't know. Or is he, as the son of Wayne, playing right into the hands of the bad guy? I don't know on this one. It's an interesting story where I admit with this issue, I'm more tentative than I was the last time we debated about this. Only because I think this sets up a lot of questions. We learn about the big bad And we certainly learn a lot more that throughout history, there was preparations in place for this to be dropped on Batman. Carter Hall had been exploring this, and the journal that we had been reading is not something Batman had been reading yet. Batman didn't have it. But yet it was there in Batman's house and accessible. So what's that all about? I want to, the more I'm learning about the history of this, the more I want to know. He left that journal for Batman, not for the Justice League, for Batman. So there's certain events that are in play here that I don't know anybody else could be involved in. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I can see your side of it. And I'm like sitting here going, there's a point to what you're saying, Jim. Maybe he should have brought him in sooner. I don't know. I don't know that. I'm not entirely convinced yet that that's in fact the case and that Batman isn't in fact doing the right thing. There's times where even Alfred argues with them and Alfred's wrong. There's other times where Alfred was 100% correct. So I don't know. Batman's human. He makes mistakes, but so do the rest of our heroes. On this one, I'm trusting Bruce right now, tentatively. I'm tentatively hoping that Batman, because I've seen Batman pull it off before, I'm hoping Batman knows something that not just us as the readers, but the rest of the players in this don't know. There's some trump card that he has that we haven't seen played yet. And I really think that needs to happen in the next issue in this conversation with Dream of the Endless.
Yeah, see, when Dream showed up, I took it as, okay, Batman, you really messed up now. This is not going to go well for you. That's how when I read it, that's how I was reading it. So if Dream does, lead him on the journey that he needs to discover, the journey of discovery that he needs to beat the big bad or to understand the big bad, then okay, I would back off on my stance on that. He shouldn't have been there, because I will 100% agree with you. If the Justice League was standing with him in Wayne Manor, Dream probably wouldn't have been there. I really, so I'm going to give myself a little caveat to escape out of this. Maybe he does need Dream for the journey, but the whole thing that, leading up to that, when we start getting more of the pieces of the puzzle, we see that Bruce never read the Carter Hall journal, because that was the big debate we were having, whether Bruce had it, whether that's who was, because for a while there, I was thinking it was Bruce reading the Carter's journal and all the little clips we get. And so that's not the case. So Bruce didn't have any of that pre-knowledge. So he really was in the dark towards a lot of this stuff. So on one hand, that kind of knocks down my point of him being wrong in the deception. But on the other hand, it really shows he didn't have a lot of the back information. Again, for me, that kind of strengthens my claim that he should have pulled more people in. But again, we're not gonna rehash that debate we had it last time.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's rehashing debate. I think the debate's evolving, because I will actually agree that there's shades of gray in this now. I don't know that the answer is going to be black and white. I think there's going to be mistakes made along the way. I think there's going to be things that he does right along the way. There's elements of this that are a very personal journey. I don't know that, and I think that's going to be the piece of discovery in this story. My feeling is that we're going to see certain things like this situation with Dream that are only happening because he's going on his own right now. I think there's going to be areas where maybe he made a grave mistake by not including people. I don't know. Because here's the thing. Who in the Justice League could help prepare him for the mistake that was made in the end of that last Dark Days issue? He thought he was doing everything right. Would their being there have prevented that from happening, or would they have just helped him do what he just did? I don't know. It's an interesting piece to debate on this. This is one of those stories that I think is going to be fun to talk about, because there's so many parts of this where you can debate it. Like, he left in the middle of that situation with Kendra and the Blackhawks when they showed up, and the whole Red Tornado. He used that situation as a way to leave his energy signature there so that he could get what he needed to continue his investigation. So he used basically the Justice League as decoys.
Yeah. And he knew the ambush was coming because he's Batman.
Right.
Or maybe he may not have 100% knew the ambush was coming, but he knew it was a definite possibility. And he knew that they had the pure nth metal there, so he knew, I'm going to steal this, hop in the sub that Alfred has hidden for me. So he was all set to borrow that piece for further study. Now, the one thing I've been trying to figure out is the challengers, of the unknown went into, the dark universe, and they have the reports of all, Kendra was talking about how all they were hearing was screams of death and yada, yada, yada. Now, in that pod that's in the mountain, now, are those the challengers inside that pod that they first discover?
Wow.
Because they're talking about there are people in there, 5 of them, and they're alive. Some kind of cryo. We have to, Or is that the dark metal people, or are the challengers of the unknown the dark metal people that we see?
Remember, there are characters being introduced into this that are spinning off into their own series. There's a number of books spinning out of this. So I would say that those are, in fact, the challengers. They are alive and are going to be adding something to this. So I think this is going to be one of those stories where now that we're seeing the Justice League involved and Batman involved and the Blackhawks involved, that we're going to start seeing other players being brought into play. It's going to be interesting to see where this story goes because of that. And what information do they have to bring to the table?
Yeah, and they stopped anyone from opening them, so they're still being kept in cryo for whatever reason. My guess is they've been tainted by the dark universe, and that's why I'm thinking they could be possibly this evil version. Those promos that we've seen with all the evil versions of all the different characters. What if it's the challengers that are the evil version of those, of the Justice League?
I don't know. Yeah, I there's nothing I have to argue with.
Yeah, I know it's pure speculation, but it's one of those things that I was like that I caught. It wasn't until second and third read throughs that I started thinking, okay, if these were the challengers, why wouldn't they release them? And this is the kind of stuff I love about this story, that I keep getting more questions. There's the big questions as to what's Bruce's involvement, what's the Wayne's involvement, all that stuff. But then you have all these little side stories, all these little other pieces to the puzzle that is what makes this such a great story. And really I'm like, man, this is awesome.
In the picture of the challengers with the red tornado, there's 5 of them.
Right.
So I'm willing to bet that that's them in there. I love this idea of this dark multiverse that ours seems to sit on it as a smaller multiverse, she was saying. So I'm very curious to see what that's like.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's multiple Earths inside the dark multiverse, and we just don't know about them yet. Or is there just one giant dark verse?
Right. So the door, he knows that the door's been opened, Red Tornado, and that led to the whole piece of chaos into that. I'm very curious to know Red Tornado's story in all this, because we know the traditional Red Tornado story from the past. I was glad to see that character being brought back into the DC universe. It's one of the things that they're doing with Rebirth that I think has been really great. They've been going gradually through the DC mythos and adding character elements back in. That Red Tornado is one that I've missed. I've always loved Red Tornado, and I'm just glad to see him brought back. I'm gonna be curious to see how this story affects him, and is he going to wind up in a book after this?
Well, I'm hoping that we get something with him, because I was, you saw him, right there. So he's from the past, the whole Metal Men and him connection, and so it's like, oh, okay, so we got probably a good solid backstory of who he is, so that's kind of neat. But it is, again, it's something that I was like, man, there's as there's more questions, there's more, just as we start getting more answers, we get more questions. And I think, again, you talk about what a good story needs to do. It needs to give you a payout as you're reading it, but it needs to set up for the next piece of the puzzle. And this is doing some really cool stuff with that. And again, I don't know. I want to know what's going on. This is one where I want spoilers on it, to be honest. I'm dying to know.
Yeah, that's the piece for me too. I'm dying to know is the story. That's a sign of a great story, though, isn't it? The anticipation it builds. What did you think about Batman's state of the art ride? I like that Hal's got it all figured out. He's like, and what, you guys didn't think Batman was prepared for this? He already had probably a state of the art ride waiting for him, and you see him riding on that dinosaur creature on the way out, which was great.
Oh God, yeah. Again, Batman is Batman, it's. He's one of the, I love this part of the story, but I'm angry at my friend for what he's doing. He, as you said, he basically used the Justice League, as his distraction to get away with what he came there to steal. And it's one of those where I don't knock how it's written. I'm like, come on, dude. But again, it's one of those that probably, by the end of the next issue, I may be completely changing my mind. I don't know. And that, for me, is excitement. But now, when you get past Batman and his state-of-the-art, his ride, because we see the Plastic Man egg, because all I thought was Plastic Man was being used for the one component, but he's not done yet. So, and that page right there had me looking at everything kind of weird, because, again, you see the Dark Justice League, which there's more than 5 there. So that kind of was throwing out my idea of the challenges of the unknown. So as I'm looking at that, I was like, the other one I had that idea going, then I look at this page, like, probably not. But it does make me wonder what is going to be Plastic Man's role. What about, now, is that Platinum?
It is. These are people that, though, they're explaining there's a dark energy that's coming through. So I don't think the challengers are going to turn.
Right.
I think that everybody you're seeing really is going to come through. And what you're seeing is the people that are attuned to that energy, that nth metal energy. So you've got, obviously, Dr. Fate's a no-brainer on that one. Yes, you've got the Metal Men. Plastic Man, though, because of the nature of his powers, I think we're going to learn something new about Plastic Man, I think, from this. Is attuned as well. So the Plastic Man in the egg form was being used as a part of this because of his connection to this metal on some level. So we're really introducing this metal as a new force, a new connection to certain characters in the DC universe, and understanding them in a way that we haven't before. A kind of not a reimagining, but adding to their mythos, the same way that they're adding on to Carter Hall's. I'm enjoying that because we're not taking anything away from them, we're adding to them, which is always my preference when you do something like this. So I can't wait to see where some of this goes.
Yeah, and it's one of the, again, just the, I loved how we get that great scene with the what are these premonitions, and it's talking about how the things are getting closer, and you go from that to the cave. And I loved this scene because, one, I'm agreeing with Alfred, but it was a really cool thing where he's like, "Sir, I'm begging you, tell them. Please, Alfred, I'm too close to the answers, and we're running out of time. The false energy signature I left behind won't fool the League for long. I need to protect them. I need to protect everyone." Now, right there, that's a very plain, basic statement that is, up front, and I 100% believe Bruce thinks he's doing the right thing. So if last time I may have come across that, that I 100% believe Bruce thinks he's doing the right thing by keeping them out. But this is one of those things where this is one of those character flaws that he has where he has that obsession.
But is it obsession or is it focus? He's focused on finding a certain answer. And is the answer the key to solving this and ultimately winning? Or is it what you're saying? Is it an obsession that's a mistake? I don't know that I'm reading what he's doing as an obsession. I think he's seen the signs. I think he understands. I think he's researched it, and he's looking for those answers. I could be wrong. I mean, so I'm just telling you where I'm going off. You and I are coming at it from two different angles. I don't know that you're necessarily wrong. You might be proven to be totally right in your way of looking at this. On my end, I'm trusting. I'm not looking at it as obsession. I'm looking at it as focus. Could it be proven to be obsession? Maybe. As the story unfolds. I'm not there yet, though. I don't see him as obsessed.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. This page right here really has me seeing him as more of an obsession, and
How?
I think, well, it's just the fact that one part of it is when just that one paragraph that I read right there, it's I don't know, just the way he's going on, the way he's talking, and it to me, I'm getting this bad vibe from this, and part of the things when you're doing, sometimes when you actually do an investigation, when you're looking into, when you've got to do this research and focus is a good thing, but sometimes if you're too laser focused, if you have the blinders on, you can't see something that you need to see. And again, it's, going back to my personal investigation style versus Batman's investigation style. I'm a team investigator. I like bringing people in. I like getting other opinions on stuff.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. You're on a deadline. You know your time's running out on your deadline. You know if you pull in a team and you explain to them where you're at, you're going to waste any time that you could have had to finish and solve that case yourself, to turn it in on time. Are you going to call in a team and explain it to them and risk your deadline, knowing that if you risk your deadline, you are going to get in trouble for doing it? Or do you trust the fact that at this point, I have the most information? I can finish this case myself, turn it in on time, and not get in trouble. I'm looking at and reading this right now, and this may be where we're seeing it differently. He talks to Alfred. Alfred's saying, "Sir, I'm begging you, tell them. Please, Alfred. I'm too close to the answers, and we're running out of time." That line's pretty important to me right now, because he understands something bad's coming. So he's trying to get the answers to stop what's coming. The false energy signatures left behind won't fool the League for long. I need to protect them. I need to protect everyone. So he's aware that there's a big bad coming. I've never seen a pure sample. So he's trying to get the answers necessary to prevent all of this from happening. So he's aware of the level of danger that's there. So what does he do at this moment? Does he stop and call in the League and explain everything to them, wasting valuable time in his mind that could have been used to solve this? Or does he take this opportunity, this time where everyone else is busy, to laser focus on solving the mystery, to get it on what he perceives as a deadline that they're cutting dangerously close to? He knows it's coming, probably better than anybody else. I don't know. And honestly, I'm making a lot of assumptions there, but I think we both are in our presentations on it. You could be right, I could be right, or the truth could be somewhere in the middle. I'm seeing a gray area potential on this one too, where it's going to be a little bit A, a little bit of B. I don't know. It's an interesting story to me because I'm not sitting here right now saying you're wrong. I don't feel that at all. I see your side of it being a possibility. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, though. I still believe Batman may be right. And I also believe that the truth might be somewhere in the middle. That's where the story is compelling to me, because I don't feel like this need to... I'm not like sitting here on the edge of my chair going, "Jim, you're wrong, and here's why." And I've done that before. And I've adamantly felt that passionately in a story, and maybe even more so in our previous argument than I do now. In this one, I feel in a different place. I see your point, and I can see where you're coming from, but then I'm like... I feel that there's a certain amount of information that Batman knows that we're not privy to. I think we know things that he doesn't, because it's clear he hasn't read Carter Hall's journal. We have. So we know, I think, something that perhaps he doesn't, but we also don't know what he knows from his investigations, but also from what's going on in his head. Because remember, he's directly connected to this in a way that none of the League are, in the way that the Joker is.
Right. Yeah, because of that metal that went through him that brought him back, etc. Yeah, and it's funny because one of the reasons you're a difficult person to argue with is because you hit you with that logic, man. I'm like, I kind of see what you're saying here. I'm like, dang it, but I'm gonna back off a little.
But I see yours too. So I mean, it's interesting as we're talking through it. I can see that perspective and where you're coming from at it, and yours is very logic driven too. So I'm listening to your side of it. I'm like, well, Jim's got points on all of this. It's just I also see these elements going on right now, and the one piece that's a wild card for me in this, Bruce is connected to this in a way that none of the Justice League are. They can't understand what his reincarnation was like. They can't understand what that connection has, because this has been happening to him since he came back to life. So he's been driven about this since he came back to life, and that's the connection that he has with the Joker. What has he already learned from the Joker? What did he already learn himself? There are pieces we don't know yet. And they could very well blow up in his face. I wonder if that metal in him is the reason why he's having this meeting with Dream of the Endless. And is he the only one that could have that because of it? I don't know. I'm finding the story fascinating, and honestly, this is one of those where I'll be cheerfully glad to be wrong. If we find out that, like, Bruce, you went about this the whole wrong way, there's a lot of reasons why you could say that, because I do see that side of it. But I do believe there's a point to argue with, but yeah, we're forgetting this piece that's in there as well, so Bruce could be right. And it could be somewhere in the middle. It's fun. This is a fun story. I love the depth of it, because I feel like not everything's spelled out right now. I think as we learn more questions are being generated by this. It's doing new things, and I really am liking that. Snyder's been hitting a home run with what he's been adding to not only the Batman mythos, but the DC mythos in general in his story arcs. He's introduced character concepts like the Court of Owls. He introduced Bloom, brought Batman and took out Batman and the Joker, brought Batman and the Joker back to life, took the Joker's face, gave him a face back. I mean, it's all kinds of wacky stuff that he's doing. Really restored certain characters back to their prominence. And I love that current writers have taken what he's done and have added on to all that. And it's a fun time to read DC, because we got another writer that is doing some wacky things to the DC universe on a level that we haven't seen, I think, since Grant Morrison was messing around with things. And I like that. I like that, and it's a different take, and it's a different direction of it, and it's a great writer. I'm loving what he's doing.
Yeah, and it's funny because, looking at that, continuing that scene in the Batcave where he starts talking about Braille, how they were, bringing it back, tying it back to why weren't they watching Mongol, almost said Mogo, but Braille is the heavy planet. It's heavy magnetic, the heavy metal in it, and he's talking about even looking into that planet, seeing what kind of signs he could, what maybe we'll miss, those signs we're missing. For me, reading that, I'm like, okay, that could be something that could get passed off to the team, but the team knows nothing about this. These are different stuff. Like, there could be certain areas where the team could be his, so he doesn't have to be at all places. He's a great strategist. He's a great tactician. He can manipulate and move the team around, tell them, look here, do this, that, and that. These are the stuff that I wish we could have, he would have done. But bringing him in this late in the game probably is too late. That's part of the thing. I wish they brought him in earlier. Wish he brought in the team earlier.
Here's the thing. I think this might be where we have a different perspective of this. I think the best answers right now are going to come from the gentleman who's on the final page.
Right.
So that's where I think that's a wild card piece, and I think it might be why you and I are in a different place. I read all 75-ish issues I say ish because there was so much more that was written besides those pieces of Sandman. Right. And seeing him there, I'm like, this adds a whole new twist on this thing, because I have a funny feeling this conversation is going to answer every one of those questions. And honestly, I think this conversation will maybe validate you, Jim, or may validate me, or is going to validate that the truth is somewhere in the middle, because Dream's going to bring on. And I love that it's Daniel the Young. I mean, it's I'm glad that they've shown that there's been a shift in that matches what happened in Sandman. I can't wait to see where this is going, because I adore this character. DC's doing some bold things. They brought Watchmen into the DC universe. We're bringing Sandman, which, all honesty, back in this era, Vertigo wasn't as disconnected from the DC universe. So I like that they're not afraid to show some of their roots. That this is a character that would be involved. I can't wait to see where this goes. It's a bold move bringing this character back in. It's one that I've sorely missed, and I think it's going to be done with a great care that matches the nature of this character. I just can't wait till the next issue. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't have as strong connection, knowledge, or experience with this guy. I know who Dream is. I know the Sandman stuff basically. So for me, this is one of those things where I don't have a past knowledge. I had no real idea that this was somebody different, or how this guy became Dream, or I don't know any of that backstory. So it's kind of interesting that where this is going to go. How is the story? How are you going to read the story, and how am I going to read the story? It's kind of like with the Watchmen stuff. Anybody who hasn't read Watchmen, they're reading the Watchmen story arc a little bit different than we are. And I think that is going to be an interesting part of this that I'm looking forward to seeing how much of back origin, how much story are they telling? How much is it going to be just going forward and driving it? Will you know a little bit more than I will? Will we both be in the same page, or whatnot? I think that's kind of a really cool element in the story, a creative story part of this. And I'm talking a lot of the story. I don't want to dismiss any of the artwork. This has been some great artwork. Mm-hmm. My art reads have been absolutely wonderful throughout all of these different metal stuff, especially this one. Just sitting back and watching the styles and just the, kind of a little bit on the freaky side, a little bit on rock solid. They were shifting around and how things were looking, whether it was a past, whether it was a crazy premonition, whether it was present day Batman or present day Justice League. They really did a really good job with tweaking and, keeping the artwork consistent, but it did a great job of reflecting the tone and just the mood of the pieces. This again, solid story, solid artwork. I'm extremely excited and happy with Metal.
I am too. It's what's nice about it, it feels like a mystery. And like any mystery, the more answers you get, the more questions that are on the table. I feel like I did with R.I.P. for this one. Remember when we were in that storyline?
Yeah.
Where we had a lot of debate going on, a lot of discussion about what's really happening here. I don't feel like... I feel like as it's gone on, I'm more tentative on... I'm Team Batman. I believe in him. But it doesn't mean that I think that there isn't a possibility he made some mistakes along the way. And I love that. This stuff is absolutely fascinating to me. So, I don't know. I'm really digging this piece and looking forward to seeing. I don't really care about being right on this one.
Yeah.
I care that... Here's what I care about. I care that I care enough to debate it. And that says something about a story. In the end, I don't care if I'm right or wrong, and there's really a truth to that. I care that I'm passionate about the debate. I care about that there are events happening in the story that make me have an opinion. I care that the story has enough depth to it that my opinion evolves with each issue, which means it's not a shallow story. It's revealing clues and tidbits along the way. I'm catching certain tidbits that you aren't. You're catching certain tidbits that I'm not. And they really have to do with reading perspective and our own personal backgrounds. I love that you and I are really coming at this differently, not because so much we disagree. We both love this story, but you're coming at this from your perspective, your life perspective, your reading perspective. All that's driving that. And you are seeing things that I'm not, and it's actually educating me. And that's where I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. Everything Jim's saying makes logical sense to me. I get his point. I'm seeing this, though, and I'm, pretty adamant in it. But I don't feel like this is one where I'm not motivated to prove you wrong, because I feel like we're discovering this and we're having the same journey of discovery as this goes along. The true answers are later in the story. And I'm really content to just keep this debate going and to see, it'll be interesting to see if our two ideologies merge at some point because of the story, or if they continue to be like this, where we're seeing it from a different perspective. Because I think that's equally interesting, don't you? If along we're both seeing, you're seeing clues that keep validating you. I see clues that keep validating me. It'll be interesting to see at some point in time something's got to give, where either we converge and we both hit that point where like, well, we kind of both were right.
You're right.
Or one idea or the other wins out. Or it's something that we were both way off the mark. And I like that, though. This story, I have a lot of confidence this is going to be one of those types of stories that the journey is going to be just as fun as the reveal. And that's really important because the reveal means something more when you get to that. I mean, this is the cliffhanger of the first issue of this. We got Dream of the Endless. I'm like, where did this come from? They're in a Batman story. I love that they're embracing what's always been great about Batman. Batman's a character that you can tell any kind of story with. And when you do it, it changes the rules. Adds a new element because you're seeing Batman interact with things that are usually outside of his comfort zone. I grew up with Batman dealing with the supernatural and loving Batman dealing with the supernatural. I've seen Batman versus Dracula. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that has gone on. Batman and the Spectre, Batman and Deadman. I mean, these are all things that, I was very comfortable growing up with seeing Batman encountering this kind of stuff. And it had added another ghosts, Batman and ghost stories were ones that were interesting. I'm glad to see this being brought into this again, where there's a supernatural element to this whole thing that's wicked cool. So he's uncovering a mystery of the ages from 50,000 years ago? I think that's what they said in the beginning.
Yeah, 50,000. I
mean, how cool is this? And it was predestined to land on the doorstep of the Waynes. Ugh.
Now, here's something that did pop in my head.
Sure.
Okay. So when the first time when Batman died, but didn't actually die, but was sent back into the past, and we had that whole really cool story arc of Batman lost, basically.
Sure.
Could that story arc affected this?
I don't know.
Yeah, because that's something I'm wondering with it. Could that be why the Wayne family is so connected? Because this Bruce, and I believe this is the same guy who went through that, was actually back in that time. He was around when the three tribes were there. He introduced the tribe of the Bat. He introduced all that. I think that could that have been the initial story part of this? So basically, all of the great Snyder stories are all coming together and they're all getting connected. That's what I'm thinking is going. I'm wondering is going to happen. I think it'd be really neat if it happened.
Well, he didn't write that.
What?
He didn't write Batman Through the Ages.
That wasn't him?
No, that was Grant Morrison.
Oh, this is Grant Morrison. Yeah, sorry about that.
So, I don't know that that's going to be a part of this, because I think you're right. I think this is going to be all of Scott Snyder's stories coming together. I don't know that it's going to be Grant Morrison's brought in, although I don't think it's off the table either.
Right.
I'm actually going to be curious to see what part of the mythos if he's pulling any of that from this. I don't know. So I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know that they're going to heavy go into the Grant Morrison story though, because I'm guessing at a certain point you got to sit there and say, I need this to be accessible, while at the same time being deep. So I'm going to be curious to see. Here's the thing: if they do go to that, there's going to be an explanation of that. So we're going to get it in the story. You know what I mean? Because it goes to. You were talking about experience with different characters and different stories. Like the Watchmen story, I have full confidence the way they're going to play that out in the DC universe is going to explain to everybody what they need to know about those characters in order to be up to speed. I do think, like you're mentioning, you're going to get something more if you knew the story, because there's going to be little clues and tidbits that are wink and a nod to people that are longtime readers. But at the same time, they're going to craft a story that just says, never read Watchmen? Don't need to. We're going to tell you everything you need to know. And I think this is going to be one of those stories as well, where I think if you've read all of Snyder's run, you're going to be just fine. If you've read Batman for years, you're going to be just fine. If this is your first story, and you haven't been reading Batman in years, and you're like, you know what? Big DC crossover. I'm a Green Lantern guy. I want to read this. I think you're going to be okay, too. I think it's going to give you everything you need. Never read Sandman? Don't need to. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about Dream. So I'm hoping that's the case, because I think those are the best stories where there's something for people. Like, I'm geeking out right now looking at Daniel on this page. I don't think you need to know that's Daniel.
Right. Yeah, because I had no idea any of that stuff. But it was funny because I had the same type of level of excitement because I know basic stuff of dreams. I'm like, okay, things are about to get really freaky and things are about to get bad for him, especially because he's telling him the nightmare has only just begun.
Yes.
I'm going by those words, like, okay, endless dream is telling me he's about to get into a nightmare. That's not good for Batman. But again, maybe it is as you said before, one of those discovery things. The nightmares revealed is what they call the next chapter of this. So we're going to start learning about this big bad crossover. We're going to start seeing this. And again, where is Dream going to play into this? How is he going to get tied into this? And it is kind of a neat thing with this supernatural, mystical, the off-world stuff, the dimensional stuff in Batman, because he is the guy with no superpowers other than he's super cool. So it's kind of a neat thing seeing the quote-unquote everyday guy being the one who's connected and who is the linchpin behind all of this.
By the way, I just want you to know Christmas is coming 5 days early this year.
Yeah.
Because December 20th is a very important day. Hawkman Found is being released. So mark your calendars. December comes quickly.
Hey, I'm just as excited as you are for that, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not as excited as you are. I'll give you that.
I'm happy to share.
I am excited for that. I want to, again, couple issues that they're showing with Carter Hall. They've, and then also the previous stuff that I've been, that you've forced me to read through because of the show. I'm actually happy that you did that to me because, Carter Hall is a pretty cool character. He is, and you look at just, especially you get the right person at the helm of him who understand he's not just the guy who's going to come in with a mace and bash somebody. He is this explorer. He is this detective. He is this adventurer. He's this archaeologist. He's the warrior. He's the scholar. He's got a nice duality in his nature, who he is. So, I can understand your love of the character, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him.
Here's the thing. I'm happy to share that excitement. I don't need it to be just mine. I want it to be other people's because I want that book to be a success. Here's the thing. Jeff Lemire's Green Arrow. Remember how great that was? Yep. That's who's writing this. Yeah. So it's somebody who is really good at getting to the core of the characters, but then adding an edge, taking them to present day, making it, contemporary and interesting, at the same time giving you all the elements of what you love about the character. I am so confident in that series because Jeff Lemire. And I know it's Hawkman Found is leading into a mini-series, and I'm hoping that leads into a full series because, man, Jeff Lemire, oof.
And Lemire's good with bringing the humanistic element of a character. Yeah. Whether it's a everyday street level person or whether it's a little bit on the mystic, freaky deaky side, there's still a human level to him, and it's that connectability in the storytelling. So Hawkman's going to be a good character for him to write because of, as I said, he's got a massive the duality in his nature and who he is. You need to have the right writer who can do that good balance of all the different factions that is Hawkman.
This is interesting. This book, so we get Metal number 2 in September. We get Metal number 3 in October. Then we skip all the way till December for Metal number 4 because of all the one-shots that are in between and issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and it's interesting because there's no week where you get more than 2 of these.
Yeah, because you have some of the crossovers like that Teen Titans number 12.
Yeah.
Nightwing 29, Suicide 26, Green Arrow 32, Flash 33. There's some Justice League 32. Justice League 33. Yeah, I again, it was one of I'm wondering. I think those are going to be little connections to it because, like with the Titans, they've already set up what they're going to do because I want to say Teen Titans 10, Damian has a father to son chat, a nice heart to heart, discussion between the Wayne family, which ended up being, once again, you learn that Bruce is not he's not the kinder, gentler father, but also I think part of my thinkings on saying Bruce is getting obsessed is how quick and dismissive Bruce was in Teen Titans. I want to say 10. It may have been 11. I'm not sure the numbering. It may have been even 9. But Damian reaches out to his father for advice on dealing with the Titans, and Bruce is very quick to, I'm busy, can't talk now, get your team in line, move on. And it was very bump, 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 very brief and quick. And it was, granted, he's dealing with the metal stuff, and this is eventually going to lead to Titans coming into Gotham probably, or Titans dealing with the metal, or however they're going to do the crossover. But it's, so I think, it's kind of neat. I want to see these different individual solo issues, seeing how the crossover and the connections are.
Yeah, well, and is he right in his responsibility? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting debate on that one, because when Bruce does that stuff, I'm like, okay, I would never do that myself, or if I did, I'd be certainly issuing apologies. How's it going to be with Bruce? And we also see him, he's going to encounter Dick Grayson in this.
Yeah.
What's that going to be like? It's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. It's a very Batman story and Batman's handling of it. Sometimes he's right when he does that. Sometimes he's wrong. I don't know which one this is going to be. Right now, I'm leaning towards, especially with the way this is ending up in this issue, I'm still Team Bruce. I think he's got a plan. As much as you can have one when you're trying to solve a mystery like this. We'll see if that doesn't change along the way. This is fun. I'm just having a blast. I'm having an absolute blast with this.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Here, ready to move up.
How you doing, Sean and Jim? This is Rasul. Happy 500th show. Hope to be around for another 500, which would put me at 60 years old. But wanted to complete my thought from last time I talked to you gentlemen, when we was talking about digital comics. Well, what I meant when I said is that books like Lone Wolf and Cub is a book I need to touch. I don't get intimate with the book when I can't touch it. But that's not to take nothing away from digital. I just think some books need to be held in your hand. But let's go to a brighter note that's got me really excited. Did you gentlemen see the Freedom Fighters preview cartoon at the con this year? I am so excited. I cannot believe this cartoon is on the air. That means with this happening, every kid in the DC universe have a chance to be on a cartoon, because these are some really obscure kids. If they can get these guys on the television screen, we need to try to get the Metal Man for the children. You guys have a pleasant day. I am so excited about this cartoon. I don't know what to do. Just can't wait to see. This will be one of the few cartoons that I'll buy. You guys have a pleasant day. Y'all keep on raising, and until another 500 episodes, you guys keep going. Love the podcast, because you guys was my first podcast, which has translated into me listening to about 20 more podcasts because of you guys. Thank you guys again for all your hard work, and man, I love this podcast. You guys have a pleasant day. Your favorite fan.
He talks about a few interesting things. It's interesting. I think I go through waves when it comes to how I'm collecting, because like right now I'm really into reading absolutes and omnibuses. And he's right. There's sort of an intimacy in, how you're, reading those books. Like it's funny. I started reading Absolute Sandman again after reading this issue, mainly because I'm just Sandman happy. I'm like, oh my gosh, Daniel Dream, he's in. It's yay. So I'm starting to read those Absolute editions, and I haven't had a time to really sit down and complete reading the series in Absolute. I collect them because I love, the format, but time has been like my enemy as far as getting them. But here's one of the things. Once I start reading an Absolute, and this has been traditionally the way it works, once I start reading it, I finish it. I keep going. So I went back to the beginning. I'm like, let me start from scratch, and I'm sort of reading the first Absolute volume and really enjoying that series in that format. I also have the anecdotal Sandman, which I haven't had a chance to go through and read those. But this one I really wanted to read the oversized with the art and everything like that and go through it. So, very cool. But I'm connecting with him when he's talking about that. I think that's what... I don't think it matters what medium you read him in. And I'm not discounting his point. He said, I need that physical, kind of the texture and feeling that in my hand. And I think that's very true. People talk about the comic book smell, right? When you read those, and I get that. I think that there's a digital audience that gets the same thing reading digital, because I know I do. When I'm getting into a mode where I'm reading, you and I have been talking about playing catch up on certain series. It's fun to read, 5 or more issues of a series and really have that intimate connection with the series because you've read a chronological order of them. And I think you connect with the story in a deeper fashion when you're reading more of them. So that's interesting. So I get his point. Lone Wolf and Cub is by the way, what a great one for him to throw out. Have you read any of that, Jim?
No, I don't think I have. I may have some of it though.
Add it to your list.
I'll be honest with you. I may have bought it, and it may be on my pile of books that I want to get to, and I got it in collected edition. So, if I have it, it's collected edition. I got to find it.
Sure. Well, it's a great recommendation, and so I don't want to make light of the fact. I know he mentioned it, from a point of referencing something that he has a connection to, but I want to echo his comments on how great that is. He's talking about the upcoming animated release with the Freedom Fighters, where our characters from TV, Arrow, Flash, and stuff like that, are actually the bad guys. And it's an alternate multiverse story where the Ray is one of the key focuses as the hero of the story, and introduces the Freedom Fighters versus some of our TV characters. So the Flash is in there, Arrow's in there. I don't know if Supergirl's in there. She might be too. But I know I think the villains, if I remember correctly, the premise are our TV heroes, and they're actually doing the voices.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. And he's right. I love that they're bringing in some characters that you don't traditionally expect to be the stars of an animated release to introduce them to a new audience. I'd love to see a Metal Men animated feature and see a way for them to make that work. I think the key to those, to kind of go with Russell's, if it's good, give it to people. Let people know that they should be watching this. I think these animated releases are top-notch that DC's putting out. I'm glad they're continuing this line. And I think it's important for us as fans of not just comics, but of animation, to share that with... There's a lot of anime fans out there, and just general fans of animation that maybe never will touch a comic. It's not their cup of tea, but they love animation. Get that in their hands, because here's the thing, that's another medium that's distributing great storytelling from our comics. I want to see more of those, and they've all been great. I really enjoy that we get a periodic. We're in like this really cool golden age of content where we're getting great animated releases. We're getting our characters in film, in television on live action. We're getting animated television programming. We're getting great comics, getting video games. I mean, where aren't our characters? Action figures are all over the place in various different formats. Statues, shirts. You can get anything you want comic related right now. So we as fans have a lot to be happy about as far as the variety of content and collectibles available to us in a way that's never been before. And I think we really need to be the ambassadors of this stuff and get into the hands of the right people, because I want to see more of these animated features. I think they're great. Did you see the Batman Harley Quinn? Have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
It's a spin. It's from the animated series. It's like totally from the animated series. It's fantastic. Anybody, we'll have to talk about it on the show. Like when you watch it, let me know. We'll talk about it on the show. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really, really good. So anybody out there who haven't watched it yet, I got it on iTunes. I don't know if the physical release is out yet. If it's not, when it is, grab it. This thing is wicked cool. So it's nice to see them embracing that world and bringing it back again. It just makes you remember just how good that was and how well that holds up, because you can do new stuff in that, and it's awesome. I mean, I really highly recommend it. I think they're doing a sequel already to it. So it's that good. I mean, like where they've already got confidence in, hey, let's do more, I mean, which is awesome. It's great. It's one that if it wasn't on your radar, grab it. It's I don't know why it wouldn't be, but if it wasn't on your radar, grab it because it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
G'day, Sean. G'day, Jim. This is Brett from Australia. Just wanted to congratulate you both on making it to the Levi's jeans number 501. Very impressive achievement indeed. And 11 years is just incredible. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Thanks for all the years of fine listening. I don't think I've been on for 11 years. I think it's been 5 or 6 maybe. But no, I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing more insightful insights and great strategery from the pair of you. And more singing too, I hope. All right. Thanks, guys. Look after yourselves.
I love the 501 jeans reference. It is funny. It hasn't, I don't think it's fully sunk in on me yet that, we're getting beyond the 500 mark and heading down the next batch. It's funny. I was thinking this through the other day because I'm going to be going back for my PhD and superintendent's license. And I'm like, I still have I know that's going to make my life busier, but I did this with my principal's license just recently. So we've already started talking about how to change how we record, and we're working on that behind the scenes. You guys haven't actually seen the fruits of that labor yet, but Jim and I have been preparing we got about 4 upcoming episodes already prepared for. As far as we know what the content's going to be, we know how, we're ready to go and start recording them for the purpose of getting us back on a regular schedule of 3 to 4 a month. And that's important to me. I'd like to get 4 a month back in, but at least 3 episodes a month of Raging Bullets. So we're going to have 3 August episodes. It's going to pay off more in September because Jim and I have a lot of that planned. So our pre-planning for the show has changed because of this. But that's a sign of just how important this podcast is to you and me, because we're at a point where, 503 episodes in, you and I are just as devoted to this show as we were, I think, at episode 1, if not more now, to the point where we're both saying we want to hit 1,000. And it's not about that number. It's about, I'm enjoying this tonight. Like our debate, we just did the Dark Knight's Metal. I didn't know what you were going to say. I didn't know I knew that certain elements of our previous debate from this were going to continue, but it's a new issue with a lot of new content. I didn't know where we were both going to be. I love this stuff. I love talking this out with you. And I love this type of stuff where we get a chance to interact with our audience, because I think we've just got a terrific audience. And I love these opportunities to kind of have this dialogue that we're having. So thank you, Brett, because obviously you've been a big part of the show. You've called in, multiple times over the years. And I love that we've got people that are, newer callers like Russell, who have been calling in for the past few months, although Russell now feels like he's a part of the show family. Brett, who's, when he calls in, immediately familiar. Actually, everybody who called in on this episode, familiar people. And I love when we get new faces and all that. I like this interactivity from the show, and it's, I don't know, it's a fun part of this. I genuinely look forward to our recordings. Even though you and I kind of scramble to try and get a common time to record, it's when we sit down and do this that I'm at my most comfortable. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and another person who wants more singing.
Well,
once again, another reason why we have to do Raging Bullets the musical, dude. It's got to happen.
Here's the thing. I've got to go to Australia, mainly because I like Brett quite a bit, and I'd like to meet him actually in his own home turf. But then it's time for an intervention. I've got to sit down with him. We got to get him some help. And I don't know if it's the type of comics he's reading or what that's making him a little crazy. But to make that statement, either that or maybe he's trying to stick it to me.
Honestly, that could be more.
It could be more the case.
A little bit more of that. No, let's give Sean a little bit. Here you go. Let's encourage Jim.
Here's the funny part. This is the insane part. I actually like the idea of somehow coming up with a way to do a musical episode because I just think it'd be silly. So I don't know that that's completely off of my radar. So maybe at some point in time, taking the joking out of it. And Brett, honestly, thank you for all your participation in the show over the years, and looking forward to talking to you much more as we move forward.
Hey, Sean and Jim. This is Joseph Luciano, a.k.a. Hungry Ghost. I just wanted to say congratulations on 500 episodes. I'm sorry I'm tardy to the party. I can't believe it's been 11 years. And I actually look back, and I've been there listening to you guys since the very beginning. I think my first episode was episode 8. I had just moved to Buffalo, and I was looking for something to listen to at my new job, and I found you guys. And been listening to you guys ever since. It's been a long ride. Congratulations. And I just wanted to also talk about, I also listened to a little bit of episode 501. And I actually had to agree with you, Sean, on how the state of our collecting changes over the years. Because, like Jim, I was buying every issue that was coming out, DC, everything I could get my hands on, and I had to calm it down a little bit. Now I mostly get a lot of my stuff in collected editions, especially miniseries. That way, so those are collected in trade paperbacks, and I have a couple absolutes and hardcovers. But I think I cut my DCBS order down to about maybe 10 books a month. Most of it is just trades now. So yeah, I appreciate people buying digital. I don't have anything against it for them. Myself, I don't see myself going the digital route. I like to hold it in my hand. And I've just been doing that since I was 6 years old. And I don't see myself changing in any way. So, hey, got cut off there. Just wanted to continue congratulating you guys on 500 episodes, and here's to 500 more. Also, wanted to point out 501. I'm looking forward to all the exciting news that came out of San Diego. Also, I don't want to hold my breath, but I'm still waiting for a Legion of Superheroes and a JSA book. There's still hoping. Been way too long. Just glad to see Jeff Johns writing something with the Doomsday Clock. And hopefully he decides to script the JSA or something. I just need something. Or Paul Levitt's come back to Legion, something. I need it in my life. And I know you guys probably agree with me on that one. But again, congratulations, and I'll be around for the next 500. Take care. Hey, it's Joseph Luciano again. Sorry about blowing up your voicemail. I actually forgot to mention a few things. In 501, I'm really happy that you guys did a All-Star Comics number 3, reviewed that. I actually got to hold one last year, and I was profusely sweating the whole time I was holding it, and I was practically in tears. It was just really nice to hold it. It was a CGC 3.0, priced at $12,000. Sadly, I only got to hold it, didn't get to take it home. But nonetheless, it was still a pretty cool piece of history. And also wanted to, I don't have a blog or anything like that, but I do have my artwork page on Instagram. It's at Hungry Ghost with 2 T's at the end. Just wanted to point that out. If you guys want to check out some of my artwork or shout it out. I've been doing conventions for 11 years now, and travel all around, taking my art with me. I do 3D sculptures and vinyl toys and prints and pins, and you name it, I'll do it. T-shirts, stickers, posters, anything. Also, I know you guys are not that far from me, being I'm in Buffalo. You guys are in Mentor. This was the second year for a small con over here called Nickel City Con. It's actually pretty big, and I say small, but we had some high-profile celebrities this year. William Shatner and Billy D. Williams, Shawn Nichols, Flash Gordon himself. So if you guys are ever in the neighborhood, I think next year it's in May. You guys want to come through? I got a sofa bed. If you guys don't mind sharing it, come check out the con. See you guys soon.
One of my goals this year is honestly to get some more cons in, because that's one of the things I've been lax on the past few years. I've done the local ones like Cleveland, Columbus. I haven't been able to get out of the state and go to something. And I'm like itching to go. Like I went to look at New York Comic Con to go to that this year, and I can't go because the tickets are all sold out. I want to hit that Heroes Con. The one that Joseph's talking about sounds really great. I want to, hit some more cons this year and perhaps really some ones that I've never hit before. So, he's got to give me some ideas on like what I'd like to do this year. But I miss that. I miss the connection to comic fans and just kind of the fandom community. I just really love, I feel like when I'm at a con, I've been home just because of the fact that you're surrounded by so many people that are like-minded in interests.
It's interesting because I don't like groups. I don't like crowds. I do have anxiety issues when I'm, kind of in a mass. But there are moments every time we've gone to those cons where I just, you said it, you feel like you're home. You get that comfort, and I don't like being around people. I don't like that. That does freak me out. But I'll have moments when, like, New York always happens to me. A lot of times I'll be walking, I'll take a sidestep off of the chaos. And I'll just sit there. You just start looking around. You're like, oh, man, this is cool. And that's the kind of fun stuff that, I miss not going to cons. Because like you, I want to go to these things. I look them up, and I'm either too late to buy tickets, or then I got this. And, like, my time off is completely booked now because I've got this trip. I've got that trip coming on. So I need to just take a moment, and I need to pick a place to go to next year. 2017's dead for me, unfortunately, because of time off. But 2018, I need to pick a con in 2018. Need to go to it. Maybe that'll be the return to New York. I don't know. Maybe that'll be Chicago or hit the West Coast, Seattle. Never been to the Seattle con. Any of those. Part of me would like to hit some of those places.
I want to hit Heroes. Heroes is one that I've heard nothing but good things about, and that's on my bucket list. So I don't know. It's interesting, but he talks about the changing of how comics have been for him. I think what my worry with comics now is how are they tracking numbers? You know what I mean, as far as interest.
Yeah.
Because I think comics delivery. I was glad to hear at San Diego this year some acknowledgement over the fact that looking for new delivery methods, but I also think they need to look at new ways of tracking where their readership is grabbing books. How many people are grabbing digital trades? Because that's a thing now, where there's digital bundles and things like that. So how many people are waiting and grabbing those and collecting them? And do those count towards successful sales numbers? How many people are grabbing trades? How many people are grabbing hardcovers? And just there's such a wide variety of delivery methods of this stuff now. How much of it counts? So I don't know. It's an interesting sort of time in comics right now, and I want it all to count because I don't want to see things canceled that may be successful in a unique way. I'm just curious because I know I don't know if you do it on Comixology. I'll do an impulse buy on Comixology where they're running a sale on something. And there's like a bundle of something where I'm like, oh, I heard good things about that. Let me grab it. And I'll push that button, and genuinely for the purpose of, I want to read that. And I want that to count. Because it's a book that I'm interested in, and I want that book to get credit for the fact that I picked it up. Yeah, because it was on sale, but really sometimes the sale just puts it on my radar. Yeah. Where it's not that I'm buying it because it was less expensive. I'm buying it because it's something that I wanted to read, and that sale happened to throw it back in my radar.
Yeah, I've never had a Comixology purchase where it was under $20 just because, like, I'm just going to get this one book. Like when I picked up Metal, I was like, I'm just going to get Metal. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. Click, 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 click. Add to the cart.
Which is, it's kind of the nature of this hobby, right? That we have those things. It's funny. Yeah. So I want but don't you want that to count? Like when,
yes.
Because they are purchases that you were interested in. I've never bought anything I haven't wanted, and I haven't bought anything. I don't buy fluff. I really don't. I consider comics a medium that's really important to me. And I don't just buy things for, when I say impulse purchases, it's not kind of like, oh, I'm mildly interested in that. I usually grab things that I'm like, I genuinely want to read this and I'm excited. So I want my purchase to count. I want it to count towards keeping that book running. Because it's a genuine purchase. I'm putting my dollars towards it. I'm voting with my bucks. We always talk about that, vote with your wallet. Well, I am. So count it. And I want my digital purchase to count as much as a paper purchase. I want my hardcover purchase to count as much as my single issue purchase, because I want these books to continue, and I want them to know, hey, this is the type of stuff I'm interested in. So I don't know. It's an interesting time as a fan. I don't think there's a right or wrong to it, because that's the fun of this hobby now, isn't it? That there's such a hybrid. I am jealous that he was holding that book in his hand.
Yes.
I was geeking out at that. I'm like, I like that tactile piece too, especially when you got a book that's that expensive in your hand. And
Hey, Action Comics #1.
That's the one you want, right?
Yeah, that's for me. I'll never be able to afford it, so I'm not saying I'll one day own it. I one day want to have it in my hands, just once,
right.
Just to say I'm holding this piece of history.
That's funny. Yeah, that's probably the first Batman appearance, being able to genuinely hold that issue. Yeah. One that knowing that was like where it kicked off and that was genuinely an original that came from there, that would be really cool. Any of them are, though. I love comics history, right? I'd love to hold the first Wonder Woman appearance, first JSA appearance, all that kind of stuff. So he's talking about holding that. I'm like, this is cool stuff.
Holy caffeine!
I want to remind everyone about our show website, ragingbullets.com. Also want to remind everyone about our Facebook group community. We actually had to start a brand new Facebook group community. Ours got deleted. And it got deleted, I think, because of an error on our website. I talked it out with Facebook, and they pinned that piece down. So we're back up and running. So please know that all of our friends from our Facebook group community are already joining the brand new Facebook group. It's on our website. You can click the link. It's always there. It's in our show notes. Also, if you go to Facebook and just search for Raging Bullets, you can. So if we didn't vanish, we're still there. You just have to join the new group, and it's open to everyone. So please consider joining back into the conversation. Our website pumps out to Twitter. We have a Facebook fan page. So there's lots of places to reach us. We are on Google+. You and I are both on the PlayStation Network. I'm at Raging_Bullets. And you are Sensei _whatnot, correct?
Yep.
So 2 places to find us on the PlayStation Network. It's great to have you on the PlayStation Network now. It's fun to see your name up there and you popping up playing games and stuff. As always, we are sponsored by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on at DCBService.com?
Bundles. Of course, 50% off bundles, the different collections, the Vertigo, the Young Animals, the special editions, you name it, they're bundling together. Check these out. These are some great deals for you, but also great deals. Fables Deluxe hardcovers, volume 14 and 15. Each one is 50% off, only $19.99. 50% off Fables hardcover. Thank you, DCBS.
I do want to remind everyone they are a digital partner. Whether you do mydigitalcomics.com or Comixology, go to their site, link that account to your DCB service account, shop through their portal. You're paying the same price, but when you shop through their portal, you get credit. 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. Not paying any more, but you're getting something back for sponsoring our show sponsor. Over at InStockTrades.com. They've always got latest releases, and they've got some cool books here. From DC, they've got Looney Tunes Greatest Hits Volume 3. Beat Beat is 42% off, only $7.53. This one, it's not DC, but I couldn't help. Tim Seeley, I'm a big fan of Tim Seeley, and I've never read this. It's Tim Seeley's Action Figure Collection trade paperback, Volume 1. And this is the writer, of course, of Nightwing, who has this one. It's 180 pages. $12.99 regularly, 42% off, only $7.53. I'm grabbing this just on general principle. I have no idea what it is. It sounds insane. So I'm going to be grabbing this book. I've never read it before. I just wanted to shout it out because I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is definitely for me. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for sponsoring our show, but also for being a source for, this is what I love about comics. You browse through and find some really cool things that you otherwise would have missed just by going to their websites and browsing and seeing what's out now. And I do miss a lot in trade collections of books that I'm like, oh, I would have liked to have read that. So this is definitely an example earlier of an impulse purchase. This one I want to hold in my hand. So I'm going to grab it from InStockTrades.com at $7.53. 180 pages, 160 pages, I'm sorry. It's a steal. I'm grabbing it. Yeah. I'm in. So thank you, InStockTrades.com. I do want to mention our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. Remember that there is no message on there anymore. Skype changed that piece, but that's still us, so please feel free to call in. I want to shout out again to Scott Smith that your message for some reason was not going through on Skype. Nothing you did wrong. It's a Skype issue, I'm sure. Please call in again. I want your message a part of our show. So I just wanted to shout that piece out. Next week, you and I are going to be back, and we are going to talk... Are we talking Batwoman?
I think so. We're talking Batwoman.
We'll talk Batwoman next week, so we'll see everyone then.
Bye!
Strategery. What is that supposed to mean? That's a word that I have never seen. Do you exist? Strategery. Suddenly, I don't feel as smart as I used to be. I couldn't find it in a dictionary. Oh, what the heck is strategery? Why I need to know, I don't know, it's just my way. I asked a friend I know and they told me go away. Strategery. Maybe it's something that is wrong with me. I may need a pill from the pharmacy. Maybe that will cure my strategery. Why I need to know, I don't know, it's just my way. Just because I don't know, I'll just say it anyway. Strategery. A definition isn't meant to be, or at least one that I can see. I'm so confused. Strategery.